Hello everyone, we hope you're all doing very well. Welcome to the next in the series of Caps Have Donut Legacy Early Cold War Fighters that we need in DCS. Today is the mighty McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom, and this is an aircraft of such age that I've got plenty of memories of this flying at air shows and stuff, and so it has a lasting impression, the well-known outline of the plane. The McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom is a two-seat, twin-engine, all-weather, long-range supersonic jet interceptor and fighter bomber originally developed for the United States Navy by McDonnell Aircraft. It first entered service in 1960 with the Navy, which is super early, proving highly adaptable. It was also adopted by the United States Marine Corps and the United States Air Force, and by the mid-1960s had become a major part of their air arms. The Phantom is a large fighter with a top speed of over Mach 2.2, which is pretty impressive. It can carry more than 18,000 pounds of weapons on 9 external hardpoints, including air-to-air missiles, air-to-ground missiles, and various bombs. The F-4, like other interceptors of its time, was initially designed without an internal cannon. Later models incorporated an M61 Vulcan rotary cannon. That's 20mm. It's the one that's used in pretty much all contemporary fighters then after. Phantom production ran from 1958 to 1981 with a total of 5,200. That's really impressive. I had no idea. I thought it would be more around 1,000. And to see that it's actually been built from 58 to 81, pretty amazing, like well over 20 years, making it the most produced American supersonic military aircraft. Well, there you go. The F-4 Phantom II remained in use by the US in the reconnaissance and wild weasel suppression of enemy air defenses, while in the 1991 Gulf War, finally leaving service in 1996. It was the only aircraft used by both the US flight demonstration teams, the United States Air Force Thunderbird, the F-4E, and the United States Navy Blue Angels, the F-4J. The F-4 was also operated by the armed forces of 11 other nations. As of 2018, 60 years after its first flight, the F-4 remained in service with Iran, Japan, South Korea, Greece, and Turkey, which is amazing. 60 years for a fighter. Has anything surpassed that? I can't think of anything that's ever surpassed that. The aircraft has most recently been in service against the Islamic State group in the Middle East. But a lovely picture there. Now, I think they are a derivative of wall eyes that are on this Phantom. I don't think it's the type that we get on the F-18s and DCS, but it certainly looks wall eye-ish. Then we've got AGM-65s on the one behind, and then sidewinders on the one behind, sidewinders on the one behind. And you can see this awesome kind of frontal silhouette here, with its angled wings and rear horizontal stabs. Another picture. Very, very attractive aeroplane. Those beautiful J-79s on full display there. One thing I always remember is that, for reasons I don't know, the engines, or at least the jet of the engines, came out not on the longitudinal axis of the aircraft like you usually do. They came out at like a 5-degree down angle. Something I always noticed, the afterburners didn't line up with the axis of the aircraft. Origins. In 1953, McDonnell Aircraft began working on revising its F-3H Demon naval fighter, seeking expanded capabilities and better performance. The company developed several projects, including a variant powered by a Wright J67 engine, and variants powered by 2 Wright J65 engines, or 2 General Electric J79 engines. The J79 powered version promised a top speed of Mach 1.97. On 19th September 1953, McDonnell approached the United States Navy with a proposal for the Super Demon. Uniquely, the aircraft was to be modular, as it could be fitted with 1 or 2 seat noses for different missions, different nose cones to accommodate radar, photo cameras, 4 20mm cannon, or 56 folding fin aerial rockets unguided, in addition to the 9 hardpoints under the wings and the fuselage. The Navy was sufficiently interested to order a full-scale mock-up. The McDonnell design was therefore reworked into an all-weather fighter bomber with 11 external hardpoints for weapons. On 25th July 1955, the Navy ordered 2 XF-4H1 test aircraft and 5 YF-4H1 pre-production examples. The Phantom made its maiden flight on 27th May 1958 with Robert C. Little at the controls. A hydraulic problem precluded retraction of the landing gear, but subsequent flights went more smoothly. Early testing resulted in redesign of the air intakes, including the distinctive addition of 12,500 holes to bleed off the slow-moving boundary layer air from the surface to each intake ramp. I wasn't aware of that, but cool. This is the McDonnell F3H GH mock-up, so this is wooden, presumably.
Yeah, it was the concept.
So you'll notice how the ends of the wings and the horizontal stabs do not appear to be anhedral/dihedral at this point. They appear to be flat, which we'll see obviously had to change.
Was that something to do with the engine exhaust burning the tail plates? Or?
I don't know. So we'll see. We're going to see if anyone knows in the stream. This was 1954. World record operation at top flight on 6th of December 1959. The second XF F-4 H1 performed a zoom climb to a world record of 98,500 feet. Commander Lawrence E. Flint Jr., U.S. Navy, accelerated his aircraft to Mach 2.5 at 47,000 feet and climbed to 90,000 feet at a 45-degree angle. He then shut down the engines and glided to the peak altitude. As the aircraft fell through 70,000 feet, Flint restarted the engines and resumed normal flight. God, this guy's got some big kahunas on him. Like, I wouldn't dare do that in an F-15, let alone... Operation Skyburner on 22nd November 1961. A modified Phantom with water injection piloted by Lieutenant Colonel Robert B. Robinson set absolute world record average speed over a 20-mile long two-way straight course of 1,606 miles per hour, which is... I don't have a Mach for that, but it's very fast. On 5 December 1961, another Phantom set a sustained altitude record of 66,500 feet, which is awesome. Operation Sage Burner on 28 August 1961, a F-4H1 Air Phantom II averaged 1,452 kilometers per hour, 902 miles per hour over 3-mile course, flying below, low level, 125 feet. That is genuinely obscenely fast, like eagle fast, faster than eagle fast at all times. Commander J.L. Felsman, USN, was killed during the first attempt at this record, 18 May 1961, when his aircraft disintegrated in the air after pitch dampener failure. Oh, could you imagine? He just would have blacked out immediately, pretty much, wouldn't he? Lovely picture there at high alpha. And sound amazing. These J79s, they're relatively kind of small, low bypass, and they're really loud. Cockpit view, that is my kind of cockpit. You just got the one MFD there, look. And the rest is... Oh, you got a UFC up there. How interesting. And the rest is good old-fashioned MiG-19 steam gauges. Beautiful. And this is going to be the Rio, presumably. Yep. Titty little radar screen, look. Various other instruments. And we've got more Rio, presumably in a different version. On the plus side, it looks much less complicated than an F-14. Maybe I've got that wrong, Rio. But it looks less complicated to me in terms of radar control. General characteristics, crew 2, length 63 feet, wingspan 58.5 feet, height 16.5 feet, wing area 530 square feet, empty weight 13.7 tons. So it's a bit of a bloater. Gross weight of just under 19 tons. Max takeoff weight of 28 tons. Maximum landing weight of 16.7 tons. Fuel capacity of 7,500 litres. So that's actually quite a lot internal. That's what, 15,000 pounds. That's more than anything I can think of along the lines of a flanker. Power plant, 2-time, beautiful General Electric J79 GE178 afterburning turbojets. It says turbojet instead of turbofan. I think it means turbofan, but I thought they were turbofan. Afterburner of just under 18,000 pounds of thrust. No, that's not very powerful compared to a modern engine, but these are not modern engines. So for the day, pretty amazing. Performance maximum speed of 40,000 feet, Mach 2.23, which is pretty amazing. Cruise speed, combat range of, interestingly, only 370 nautical miles. Ferry range of just under 1,500 nautical miles. Surface ceiling, 60,000 feet. Realistic rate of climb, 41,000 feet per minute. Very good. Wing loading, 78 pounds per square foot. Thrust to weight ratio, 0.86 at loaded weight. And 0.58 at maximum takeoff weight. 0.86 for the time. Loaded weight, it's actually bloody good. You know, it's no F-16, but again for the time. Armament, E-model had 20mm, the Vulcan cannon mounted internally under the nose. Now I thought they all had pods. I didn't realise any of them actually had internal cannon. That's something I've learned. Is that what that is there? I don't know.
Yeah, the E models all uses internal cannon.
I was not
For
aware
the
of
older
that.
models, yeah, they had to carry the external
Pods. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Up to £80,000 of weapons, £18,500 of weapons on 9 hard points, including general purpose bombs, cluster bombs, TV and laser guided bombs, rocket pods, air-to-ground missiles, anti-ship missiles. Didn't know that. But it makes sense, obviously. Gun pods and nuclear weapons, reconnaissance, target, and electronic countermeasures, and baggage pods and bags in case they missed that. 4 times side welders on wing pylons. 4 times AIM-7 Sparrows. Fuselage recesses upgraded. Hellenic F-4 and German F-4 FICE carrying the 120 AMRAAM. UK Phantoms carried Skyflash. Didn't know that. 6 times AGM-65 Maverick. Very good. 4 times AGM-62 Walleye. Not, but they're much bigger than the Mavericks, obviously. 4 times AGM-45 Shrike. Terrible. AGM-88 Harm. Very good. AGM-78 Standard Arm. Anyone know what that is? I haven't come across that. Is it just the precursor to Harm? 4 times GBU-15s, which are, I can't remember what tonnage they are, what poundage they are, but laser guided.
It's the anti-radiation missile before the Harms.
Yeah, right. Okay, it makes sense. Okay. Then we've got the 18 times Mark 82, which is really impressive. That's almost Tomcat size. GBU-12s, the more standard 500-pound laser guided bombs. 5 times Mark 84, and that. So the heavier, 5 times the heavier 2,000-pound bombs. 18 CBU-87s, 89s and 58s, so that is 18 cluster bombs and nuclear weapons capable.
That is a lot of cluster bombs.
So that's a weapons truck, isn't it? I can't wait to get it. Literally can't wait to get it. It's going to be very F-14-y, isn't it, guys? Just that era, slightly pre-F-14, 2-seat, you know, with just about, I'm guessing Lantern pod, anyone? Or anyone know what pod? I suppose it had several pods. Okay, guys, real stories with the F-4. How to take off in the F-4, you ask? Well, taxi to the middle of the concrete, hold tight, rev up, and then release the brakes, and shove the big chunky throttles into burner. The Phantom leads forward, eager to shed off the ground. The twin burners torch off with a thump and a massive kick in the arse. That's exactly what you want. Thrust is reporting for duty with no warning lights. The speed is building quickly as the 2 J-79s howl behind my back with blue burner plumes blasting the runway. At 150 knots, the nose starts to rise, overcoming gravity, and I hold it at 10 degrees until we take off. The departure end runway flashes under the nose, then the perimeter fence. Still more nose down and trim needed as the big metal bitch wants to pitch up. Reaching 450 knots, time to go upstairs. I let the stubborn nose to pitch up finally, pass 40, 50, 60, and then 90 degrees. And me and Jack are going up with our balls first, our asses now to the seats. The Phantom climbs like a homesick angel, a brown and green angel that is, with fire spurting out of her ass. We stood the Phantom on its tail and departed straight up. Why? Why does a dog lick its balls? Because he can. All the FCF pilots perform the same departure because it's fun and it's tradition to show off in front of a ground crewmen who are working their asses off for this monster to fly. 3 minutes later, and now at 50,000 feet, and I level out and gain more speed. Any higher, and you need a full pressure suit like Neil Armstrong. Not much to do now, but just watch the Mach numbers climb, 0.93, 95, 97, and that's jumps straight to Mach 1.02. The TIE farmers below are sheeting their pants as me and Jack thunder through the skies. Now supersonic and maniacal engines still pushing hard in full burner as I'm looking for the magical number starting with the 2. There it is, Mach 2, twice the speed of sound. I can go on. Mach 2.4 is in its reach. Wow. But instead ease the stick back and let the jet climb again, trading airspeed for altitude. Can't believe this thing could do Mach 2.4 and Mach 2.5. How impressive. Leaving the safety of 50,000 feet for even thinner air above us, 55,000 and then 65,000 feet. We're not supposed to be here, but what the hell, we're flying a combat mission or what? Ed Cobley. That's exactly how I remember J-79s.
You notice the engines kind of point a bit downwards?
Yes, they do. They do point downwards. Or it might not be the engines, but at least they're nozzled downwards, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I thought they had parachutes for the air-to-ground run, for the air... What am I going to say? Airfield landing.
That's